Welcome to Choppin It Up, a podcast powered by Journey, where we talk about freight, how people got to where they are, and their career journeys, pun intended. All right, let's chop it up. All right, hello and welcome to the Journey podcast. I'm happy to have Kevin Miles on today. Kevin, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. Well, glad to be here.
Good, man. So Kevin is the co-founder and CEO of Eureka BI. I actually had an opportunity to meet him through LinkedIn, which has been incredible. And I've been impressed with what he and his team have built. Learned a lot about what they're working on in the pricing space for brokerages and a lot of other organizations. So glad to have you on. And I would love to just start by learning a little bit about your background and how you got into the space.
Yeah, sure. And we almost met in person, by the way, too, which was pretty cool out in Portugal. So maybe next time that'll happen. So I'm born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. Both my parents are immigrants from Jamaica. And basically stressed education from early on, regular upbringing, hard kind of nosed parents, always focused on your lesson and education, and really wanted us to have the best or better than they did growing up. So I went to school or college at UConn.
Nice.
And was majoring in manufacturing engineering.
Were you there during some of the magical runs for UConn?
I was, yes. Nice. So I was there 95 to 2000. So I think the women won a couple times, and then the men won in 99. Nice. Funny story. I was actually working the parking event staff at Gamble Pavilion for the basketball team. I didn't play any college level sports, but I did intramurals and I was on the flag football team.
Oh, nice.
And we were trying to raise money to go to nationals. And so one of the things I did as a, broke college student was go and park cars for the basketball team and events at Gamble. And one of the perks was I actually got to go into the game after and watch the game.
Nice.
So I was there when it was Khalid El-Amin, Rip Hamilton.
That's sick.
Yeah, that whole team. Ali. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. I think it's really cool to have experiences like that and kind of like once in a lifetime stuff, and you get to see a team perform at a high level. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And it was that was a shock to the world. So nobody really expected anything.
Oh, yeah.
And then they came out of nowhere, went on that amazing run, and they've been pretty solid ever since then. So
I love that, man. So went to school at UConn. You mentioned your parents stressed education a lot early. Similar for my parents, man. They were really big into making sure that my brother and I went to school and did what we had to do to succeed. How do you think that impacted your career trajectory and some of the stuff that you've been able to do?
Yeah, I think seeing the sacrifices they made, just that work ethic, and my mom taking me to and from different events, always making sure that I was busy during the summers and weekends and not getting into trouble and not running the streets. And, whether it was, I remember she signed me up for a law program on the weekends with Yale.
Really?
It was just some random stuff, but it was a little bit of structure and exposure to other things that I just didn't see or wouldn't see in New Haven.
That's amazing.
In school.
So did you grow up in the Connecticut area as well? Is that where you went to grade school and high school also?
I did. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I would love if you could tell us a little bit about Eureka BI, because I want to learn the story of how you got there. But before we lay the base for there, just tell us a little bit about what Eureka BI is.
Yeah. So Eureka BI is a software enabled service that helps brokers save 80% of their time completing large RFPs or bids that they're getting from shippers. We do some of the formatting, research analysis, and then price their lanes based on the contract start and end date. So basically, soup to nuts kind of white glove service on completing that whole RFP process, which is just a pain for a lot of people.
I remember the early days of Molo and working through RFPs, and you're clicking on a bunch of different things and doing your best to figure out what a lane is going to go for over a certain amount of time. And it's extremely archaic and long, late nights. So it's a battle.
Yes. I think it can be improved, and I know it can be improved. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's kind of one of the things I'm really focused on is just collaboration between carrier, broker, shipper.
Yeah.
You talk about the story. I remember early on when I was starting the business, a lot of folks were like, disintermediation. You just gotta get rid of brokers. And that was the investors and people outside the industry that just said, once they kind of hear brokers make a certain margin, technology is here. Why do you need them? Why are they there?
Right.
It all makes sense on paper and in theory, but the reality, better than me. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more nuance. There's a lot that goes into getting a product delivered from point A to point B.
Yeah, there is, man. I mean, it's so interesting when you think about all the different layers of what it takes to execute shipments. And I know you spent time on the shipper side, which I'd love to dig into, and kind of how you got the origin story of Eureka BI. But like you said, man, there's so many things that it takes to be able to do that part well. So it's interesting because of your experience. You said, here's a particular subset of pain points that a lot of people have. Let's find a way to solve that. I think that's where a lot of good ideas and great businesses come from.
Yeah. And so, right. So going back, right, I started out of college, again, majored in manufacturing engineering, but then got a job at UPS right off the bat. They just happened to be hiring outside of the company, which was rare. Typically they promote from within, or they just find talent within the company and they work people up through the ranks. So at this particular time, they were looking for outside folks or talent. I came in as an industrial engineer and was working on volume forecasts for the region I was in, New England region. And so basically forecasting how many packages can we expect to have delivered or come into our facility and then delivered on package cars, which you see throughout the day, because that determines how many drivers should be there, right? And it's very similar. Right. Somewhat similar, but in a much more controlled environment because it was just small parcel delivery and within their network. And it was, it's a machine, right? I mean, there 13 million packages being delivered just when I was there back then a day. It's
insane, man. It's insane.
And, we had all these fluctuations going throughout the week. And so I got my first taste of just data, exposure, and how to forecast it based on historical information and what's trending and what other factors might influence it, holidays, things like that.
Oh yeah.
Cycles. And it was a great experience. I mean, it was like no other. It's a very deep culture. It's also a really tough environment that,
absolutely.
There's some expectations that it's just no joke. And it's one of the funny stories I have is I came in as a college student. You had to wear a suit and tie every day. Just the whole appearance and how you present yourself was important. But there was a summer when I first got there, and it was 100 degrees out, summertime. Oof. People were calling out left and right, and I'm sitting up at my desk and I'm typing away, working on these forecasts, and they're like, Miles, everybody's last name, they need you downstairs to unload a trailer. I'm like, unload a trailer? One, I have a suit and tie on. I'm a college educated kid. Go unload a trailer? Sure enough, all the trainees, all the people that were up there went down to unload a trailer. But I can tell you, as a person who was also trying to forecast and provide methods and procedures for unloading a trailer, there's nothing like firsthand experience unloading a trailer to know that when you provide that type of direction to people, and having that experience now of doing it,
mm-hmm.
you know.
I think it says a lot about being willing to roll your sleeves up and do certain things. I think it's a particularly important skill to have as a leader. You're sitting there going, why in the world are they having me go from my desk to go unload this trailer? But, if you're forecasting things and really digging into the business itself, it's important to know what the people that are actually facilitating the transportation aspects are going through on a daily basis. And maybe that's not, your key function, but you did it. Like, you understand it.
Right. And that wasn't right. That wasn't the first or last time that I did that, or delivered packages on a package car when I didn't know how to drive stick shift. I shouldn't.
No way.
But figured it out in a parking lot and went and did that during peak season.
Yeah.
So it's just, number of great stories. It was a great time there.
Character building time, baby. These are good things.
Absolutely.
So,
and again,
so what was? Sorry, no, go ahead.
Going back to the work ethic, there's a certain work ethic that came from there that I then took to my next role, which was at Ahold, Del Hayes, which owns a lot of retail grocery chains.
Huge.
New England, giant business. And so where I was, the brand was Stop and Shop, and I had some work my way up there to become logistics director, and was basically in charge of a bunch of different distribution centers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got my exposure to brokers, the whole bid process, because I was on the end of sending out produce bids, perishable bids, dry van bids all throughout the year.
Welcome to the Wild West.
Right. And seeing pricing range on the same load, or seeing prices vary by like $1,000 on the same load of oranges going from, Fresno to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and being like, how can that be?
Right.
I'm assuming you guys have the same information. It's the same lane. How can the price vary that much? And being new to it, I was, a lot of that I just learned on the job of why that happens. Right.
Yeah. So timeline, what year was this when you first got into Ahold, and we're handling the bids?
2006, 2007.
Okay. So we're 16 years ago. First got into it. How long were you at Ahold?
So I was there for 6 years.
Nice. Okay. And during that time there, mostly managing bids, working with transportation providers, things of that nature, just learning the ins and outs of what that process is like?
Yes.
What do you think was hardest to learn early on?
What to believe and what was real that's going on in the market.
Yep.
And how to manage the relationships with different brokers and carriers.
Absolutely.
Because you have the internal pressures of, you need to be able to tell internal pressures. Kevin, you need to be able to tell me what the price is going to be to move this load for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah.
Because I am then basing all of my pricing on that. So that's how much I'm going to charge the customer. That's how much we're going to price these oranges at. Right.
Right.
And so when that's off, now there's a problem.
Huge problem.
Huge problem. Because I have to adjust the pricing on it. I have to figure out where I'm going to find this money that you said it was going to be.
Yeah. Sitting in that seat, how challenging was it when you had brokerage or asset providers that didn't live up to the commitments or rates that they gave you, and you had to go make some adjustments?
Yeah, that's really challenging. And that's what kept me up at night is trying to understand that. And so let me back up a little bit. So one of the things I was tasked with was really, how do we increase the amount of managed business we had, freight on board, right? A lot of it was just prepaid. The vendor was having it delivered. We were kind of at their mercy of whatever it was going to cost to have it done. And when I came on board, the goal was to raise that quite a bit and build out an entire inbound logistics team. So I had a staff of folks, and it was the mantra there was just, this is how we always did it. We kind of allowed them to do that. Why do we change it? We have enough of the regional carriers that we can handle the stuff that's closer to DC, but we don't want to start managing, some of the longer haul things that we're just not comfortable with.
Those are some dangerous words. This is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
It can be dangerous.
People don't like change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the first things I did was kind of build out infrastructure. So I just went and started talking to some of the biggest brokers out there. Just from hey, can we just expand our reach? Mm-hmm. Not going to get rid of the regional because we definitely need that. That's kind of, that is very important to the process, but we need to get a little bit bigger. So in order to grow our inbound program, I knew that we were going to need just larger brokers dealing with that.
Got it. Okay. So you had the opportunity to build out the inbound transportation team and develop relationships with brokers. Take me to the next step after that, after those 6 years there.
Oh, so right. So then I had the idea, hey, there's a lot of data that seems to be available now. Brokers still have challenges with pricing. If I could help them save, and they also spend a lot of time on it.
So much time. So much time.
That's where I just heard, when are you working on these bids? Oh, at night, on the weekends, missing the kids' game, but I have my regular day-to-day work that I have to do, and then I've got this bid, and there's just not enough hours in the day to do it all, or not enough hours in the workday.
There's not. I have to tell you a funny story. So, in between my time at Coyote and starting Molo, I went to Transport America. They're an asset-based provider out of Minnesota, have a ton of dry vans, strong Midwest and national carrier. So they bought a brokerage, and I was their director of business development. So, I'm pricing freight on the brokerage side that the asset side might not want, or they're saying, hey, we're bidding this as asset, attack this other stuff as brokerage. And it was the first time. I was 3 years into brokerage, 3 years into the space. It was the first time I had like a really big bid to do. So it was an automotive manufacturer. And I'm looking at this bid, and it's no joke, probably 2,500 lanes. And like you said, I'm not doing it during the day, right? I'm at home on my computer late at night looking at this stuff, doing my best. And it's like 4 or 5 hours late just digging in. And I'm like, I got like 5 days to do this. And this is going to be my next 5 days every night. It's brutal, man. It's super, super tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I heard. And that's what led me to start Eureka, with the focus on, a little bit of collaboration, but really saving them time and helping them compete and win on some of these bids. Some of the responses I got on how they do it was, if I don't know, I'm just pricing high, so I'm covered.
Yep.
Or when they do lowball, to your, kind of your point earlier, when they come back and they realize that the market might have changed, or they just priced it too low. Now they got to go back, and that can end that relationship with the shipper immediately.
It's done, man. It's so hard to spend so much time developing a relationship with someone that you've been selling to. And then the rubber meets the road, and the market may do something different than you anticipated, or you could have just made an error in your submission. Could have just made an error, and you start running those lanes, and you're like, we are underwater. And so now it's time to make a decision. How do you want to handle that? And you can ruin a relationship with the shipper because you priced incorrectly.
Right. And now you're potentially going to lose that. And then you have to go explain that to whoever you might be reporting to, or
so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So you saw this glaring issue. You said there's got to be a better way to approach this. I love understanding origin stories, because I think people sometimes look at, like, we see what you're doing today. I'm so impressed by the success. I see the companies that you all have worked with. I see the information you guys are able to provide. It's killer. But day one, none of that stuff existed. So tell me about how crazy it might have been early on when you go, I think we could do this, but now we got to make a product and we got to like actually get out there.
Right. So funny story. It wasn't funny at the time.
Yes, let's go.
I'm more the business side.
Okay.
But I knew I needed somebody from a technical standpoint to help build the product out. So I went out, had a relative, my nephew, who was a computer science engineer, got awesome. Together, and he said, I can, what are you trying to do? I can build it. Perfect. So got us a little space. We're in like one of those co-working spaces.
Oh yeah.
Paying a little bit of rent, starting to get out. Got a few brokers now that have said, yes, I'm interested. I want to work with you. Understand it's going to take some time, but here's what I'm looking for. Make it happen. So I'm working with my nephew, and we're trying to build this out. And it turns out he wasn't building anything.
Oh.
And so months go by, and he's kind of going back and forth about what type of programming he wants to use, what language he wants to use. I'm like, I don't care what language. We just need to show him something. We got the momentum. We got people that are interested. Like, let's do it. And literally 6 months went by and I had nothing.
Oh no.
And at this point I had a few customers that were like, yes, I want to see it. Let's go, blah, blah, blah. And so 6 months went by and I realized there's nothing. I'm like, oh, this sucks. So
what do we do?
Right. What do you do? Immediately went on like cofounder.com, went on all these sites to see if I could find somebody that could help build it. But what I realized is if somebody's not passionate about it from a tech standpoint, if it's not new, cutting edge, if they don't know the industry, there's just not as much interest, and people don't know logistics really, or
right.
A lot of people don't. There's not anything really sexy that was happening back then. Kind of like now there's more. And so it was really tough to find somebody. And I literally ran into one of my high school buddies who had just been laid off, who was also a computer science engineer. Kind of cliche, sat down with him in a coffee shop, told him what I was doing. 2 weeks later, he had like a prototype up. I was like,
no way.
Yeah. Went through exactly what I wanted. We had some data that was coming from folks like, historical data on what they'd done. So we had something to work with. He had a really basic prototype that I could actually go back and show people. And then that kind of launched things in a really positive direction from there.
What year was that?
So that's 2015.
Okay.
15-ish. Yeah.
So you got started with Eureka BI 2015. First 6 months, you get some customers on, no product, nothing to show them. Little rocky. You bring on a new co-founder with like true technical background skills and whatnot, and you guys start cranking from there.
And then we start moving. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the next couple of months and what it looked like to start to bring this product to market and how brokers responded and things like that.
Yeah. So it was still a while before things started to click. We had some of the early adopters, and I remember one of the first companies we worked with was Megacorp, and they're still a customer now. Awesome. Who provided feedback, which was so key, right? So you talk about the founder or the journey, getting feedback from customers or potential customers early is so valuable. There was a lot of things I thought in my head that would work, and I was going down this path with my co-founder's name's Andre. He was really good at keeping me in check of like, we can't just have a lot of features and a lot of bloat and nobody really uses it. And I'm spending a lot of time building it and then at the end it's trash. That's another thing I found developers don't like is building stuff that nobody wants or nobody's going to use. And so I went down that path. I had like this multi-stop functionality that I thought would be great. And you were going to be able to just look at a lane. And if there were multiple stops, you think like produce, you got to go pick up a bunch of things. We could price that all in. Turned out not to be a winner.
Okay.
It was not.
This one was trash. You said this is bad.
And so that was months of kind of developing that. And we had one person that was interested, but at the end, they didn't buy.
Got it.
So another lesson learned is like, you really need to ensure that people will pay for what it is you're selling.
Oh yeah.
You know that,
So
right? So
listen, man, you get down that road and you're like, this is going to work. They're going to buy this. And then you realize you spent so much time spinning your wheels. So much
yeah,
time.
I've had that, or my partner's always says, you know, the phrase of build it and they will come is not reality.
No, not.
Yeah. And so I found that people were really interested in, I'm pausing because I think you might have mentioned it in one of your posts recently, like people buy from people, or
They do.
100%.
They just
And
do.
so it was really about people buying from me and what I was showing them and telling them about, and taking control of the conversation, just making them think about something totally different than what they thought was possible.
Absolutely.
So the idea of always working on bids and doing it the same way and being frustrated and then unsure of if we're going to win or not,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I
is,
think there's something unique also about you being able to lean into your experience prior to starting this business that is particularly enticing for someone on the brokerage side, because you have developed relationships with brokers, you've seen their bid submissions, you understand the large variance in pricing. And like you mentioned earlier, you might get a lane that's priced $1,000 more expensive for one partner. And you're like, why is this happening? Right. But you understand that because you've been in the space, and being able to bring something to market that makes their lives a little bit easier, I think is a much better, more compelling story than maybe piling on a bunch of features that they don't really need. You're like, I want to take this pain point away because I know it's a big problem.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
So Megacorp, one of your first customers, give you a lot of feedback. I think it's also interesting to sometimes learn what pivotal moments gave you the confidence to say that this is going to work. So what were some of those for you all early on, once you started knocking some customers down and saying, okay, we have something that people are paying for?
Um, Some of the feedback, and again, I mentioned feedback. That's been the biggest thing of the pivotal moment of saying, you have saved me so much time. Your service, your product is saving me so much time that I'm now able to focus on blah blah blah. Or, um, we won a customer. We actually
Yeah.
won business because of this. So the ROI is just there. It makes total sense, and there's no reason why we wouldn't continue to work with you.
Yeah.
So some of that feedback has been really, really positive, and keeps me going. Um,
I love that. It's huge. I mean, if you can use that stuff to go and create a better product and give your customers what they're asking for, it's the best way to build, because like you said, your developers don't like building stuff that people don't want. And so you've got paying customers that are being honest and also kind of letting you know the true ROI. It makes it so much easier to go sell. It makes it easier for you to go sell that.
yes, yes, absolutely. And that's something I learned, and I'm still learning, is even when I think it's something valuable, I still send out a survey,
Yep.
still reach out and have the actual conversation. And I don't know if there's a true number, but right, you need more than one. I need more than
Yes.
one or a couple to
Yeah.
validate that there's more, right? There's enough people that would be interested in it based on that. And something else I learned, the industry, um, well, the there's a lot of copycats, or a lot of people that kind of follow what
Mm-hmm.
they see others doing, particularly larger companies. So whether it's a Molo, Coyote, Megacorp, when they see those folks investing in certain technology or going down a certain path, the mid-size and smaller brokers, they want to know, how can I compete?
Oh yeah.
How can I do what they're doing? And I think that's where technology is allowing them to do that more than ever. So you might not have the same number of people, you might not be the same size, but you can at least improve your efficiencies, improve your operating costs, and leverage some of the technology and services that are out there now.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this winter product release that you mentioned earlier. I want to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So I'm harping on the same thing, but it goes back to feedback. So we sent out a survey and we got some really good responses on what people would want to see with an RFP management software tool. So beyond just pricing, as I am now saying more than once, data is not as much of a concern anymore for folks. There's a lot of data. You can go buy data. You can also just, there's services that'll sell you data. You can get it. But what you actually do with it has become really important. And so we're looking to develop a product line that focuses on taking a bid, doing the analysis to get it, or doing the formatting to get into a certain easily digestible, easily readable format that you can then go upload and do things with. And then also capture previous bids, wins, losses, expected loads, actual loads, all that information that a lot of people just disregard. It becomes, the bid process becomes extremely transactional, and it's, I got it. Let's send it to John or Jill. They're going to go do it. Then we submit it. We win, we don't, and we move on to the next one. And then all that information and work that's gone into it is gone. And so the feedback has been, man, if we could capture that, we know there's some value in that.
It's a game changer. Yeah. I'm excited to hear more about it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice, we're looking to do something again, first quarter 2024 with the launch. And we're just working on all the fun stuff now, which is product name and all the features that people want and prioritizing. So we got a lot of feedback too of other things that people would want to see, but we're doing the whole stack ranking thing right now and figuring out which ones would be the most impactful early on.
Beautiful. How large is your team?
So there's 4 of us. This is a small boutique shop, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're a pretty small team.
Nice. And it's really cool to see what you're able to build and some of the things that y'all are able to do to help companies with a small, lean team. I think it's smart, though, to keep the team tight because you know who's responsible for what. You're able to really trust and lean into what each person is able to do as they provide value for your organization and help the companies that you all serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if we need certain things, we try to outsource what we can and manage our costs that way as well. So
smart.
One lean.
What's one thing you think has happened for you from a development perspective throughout your entrepreneurial journey? So I think each person grows throughout that time frame and becomes a different leader and a different business professional throughout that time. What's that look like for you the last 7 or 8 years of building this business?
So for me, developmentally wise, it's definitely been leaning in and truly appreciating the sales process, the sales person, there's just so much into it. There's so much that goes into it that I'm personally probably more introverted than extroverted. And having to sell has been a stretch for me, no doubt about it. And I've learned a lot through reading different books and talking to different people and really trying to gather as much information as I can on what makes a good salesperson. Yeah. And there are things, right? Initially it's kind of like, no, you just kind of go out and if the product is good enough, it'll sell itself. No,
there's really more to it.
There's a lot more to it. And so for me, I am constantly trying to learn about the sales process and it's so much like psychological.
Oh yeah.
To how people think and how they make buying decisions and how they process the information you're giving them. And for me, that's been a big part of it. It's just, and once people see it and they understand it, it's like, yeah, it's a no brainer, but you still got to get in front of them. You got to be able to sell them. The price has got to be right. So all those things that go into it, I am leaning into heavily right now to just absorb as much as I can on that.
I think that's smart. It's important to understand the things that are going to help drive your business forward. And as a founder of the business, CEO, adding new business is paramount. And so to say, hey, I've got to go sharpen up these sales skills, right? Like I need to be able to understand how to drive revenue and add new customers. Some people run and hide from stuff like that. And that's the reason why their business isn't able to grow. So it's admirable to hear you say, man, like I know I'm not great at this. I got to go figure this out.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. What type of advice would you give to aspiring professionals or entrepreneurs that are teetering on their next step or thinking about going out on their own and starting a business?
Yeah. So for me, I would say go for it. This is one of the best times ever to start a business from everything I read and everything I see. I also think it's important to be measured and have a plan. So it's one thing to say, hey, just go do it. It's another thing to say, here's how I'm going to do it. Here's what's going to make sense for me in the situation I'm in. And here are the things, the kind of goals, set some milestones that you want to reach, and just make sure that you are measuring so that you can manage, what it is you're trying to do.
I like that. What future ambitions do you have for yourself or the business?
Yeah. So again, I think I mentioned it. The collaboration is a big piece for me. So I think there's more than just RFPs in my future, but bringing together the carrier, broker, shipper to create a more collaborative, sophisticated industry is a big part for me professionally. And again, with the technological advances, with the amount of data, there's definitely opportunity to do that. So that's a big part of it for me. And then figure out how to retire to Portugal at some point. And
beautiful place. Listen, I'll meet you there. It's awesome.
Somewhere like that.
Yeah, man. We had a chance to, exchange some texts while we happen to both be in Portugal. So next time we'll make sure it happens. Absolutely. It's great. Cool. Last question here for you. What's your favorite book? I love to read. I love to hear different things from other successful individuals. So what's your favorite book, man?
That's a great question. I was thinking about that. I don't know if I have a favorite. I could tell you right now what I'm really focused on, and it kind of goes back to my development over the last couple of years. It's this Challenger Sales is the one I'm reading now, which again just puts me in a different mindset of not just how I see things, but how other people do, and what really is going to resonate with them, and how I can position my talking points and what I'm doing to best resonate with them. So Challenger Sales right now is a hot one for me.
That's a hell of a book, man. I had the opportunity to read it early on in my career when I was with Kimberly Clark. This was my first job out of college. I was 22, and we went through a Challenger Sale training module and had to read the book and do all these different things. And the stuff that taught me was huge. So I'm glad that you picked that one up. It's a killer book.
Seems timeless, right? I mean, I know you right? It's same. It's the same things that matter now.
Totally. It's really interesting. You think about the position that you're in to be able to help people drive their businesses forward. But like the Challenger still talks about, if you don't provide insights and help them look at you as an advisor, you're never going to be able to move those opportunities forward. So you've got to be thinking strategically about how you present your offering.
Yep.
It's huge. Where can people find you, Kevin? I know you're often active on LinkedIn, but where can people connect with you if they want to learn more about Eureka BI?
Yeah, so definitely I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. The website is www.eurekabi.com. That's EUREEKABI.com. And then if you want to shoot me an email, it's kevin@eurekabi.com.
Awesome. Kevin Miles, co-founder, CEO of Eureka BI. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an insightful episode, man. I look forward to connecting some more, and I appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Thank you, Will.